This week we're reading Dragonflight by Anne McCaffrey, otherwise known as The Hand Scene'll Get Ya.
Hi readers, I'm Jordan.
And I'm Katie.
And welcome to Not Another Heroine, the book pod where we celebrate the heroines we love
and roast the ones we don't. We'll be your TBR FGMs.
Fairy godmothers.
And find you the best 5-star reads, the spiciest romance, and save you from the overhyped DNFs.
So grab your favorite drink and get cozy. Welcome to Season 3.
We are taking a voyage into the historical records of the beginning of the fantasy romance genre, and our guide, Jordan, will provide us a light in the dark as we begin. I'm losing steam.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on right now, readers. We're
reading a book from the 60s.
This is considered like foundational science fiction.
Wow, it's science fiction, not
yes.
fantasy?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
It's a weird hybrid. So if you go to the Museum of Pop Culture in Seattle, she had an exhibit. This author does.
Anne McCaffrey?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Well, they call her Mother of Dragon.
Sorry.
So yeah, Dragonflight is the very first book of the Pern series, is what they call it. Yeah. There's like 15 books.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and they all follow a different like dragon rider character. Okay. Anne McCaffrey is a super prolific author. She's got several other science fiction books. There's like the Crystal series, dabbled in that a little bit. It's way more sci-fi than the Pern series is. The Pern series is science fiction for fantasy readers.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Because I don't think I would even call this like a romance book, though.
No, I wouldn't either.
They get you at the beginning. It
reads
out,
like it, yeah.
But then it's like, just kidding, you're going to have to read something educational. It's like, meh.
I will say, I read this at probably 12, 13.
Really?
Yeah, I read this very young, and I'd say this is good for younger readers.
Yeah.
Like, not that it's youthful, because it's not. It's just, it leans way more plot, fantasy, science fiction, and way less character development than anything.
Yeah, I was about to say, so I dabble in like actual fantasy sometimes when I get the, the like inkling. This has a very similar essence to the Mistborn series by Brandon Sanderson. Highly recommend. I love those books. But it's a very like immersive, like not immersive in the way that you're like related to the characters, but it's like the world building is so fleshed out that it's like, this is like, I'm like watching like a bug terranium. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The Mistborn series is very similar. Like you could go between those books and like get the same vibe.
Oh, okay. I've never read Brandon Sanderson because like pure, like it's funny because I started out as a high fantasy reader. Like that's what got me into reading was, Robert Jordan and like Terry Brooks and all that stuff. But like I would not, you couldn't pay me to pick up high fantasy now. It's just not my jam. So it's interesting that you say that these have similar vibes.
Yeah. Well, I will say the Mistborn series is a little bit more approachable because the main character is a girl and it kind of like follows similar fantasy romance tropes. Like she falls in love with a prince and they go to balls and stuff. He knows what he's doing by adding these in to kind of like expand readership. If you don't normally like high fantasy, I feel like that's one that like if you wanted to dabble, I would like start with that one.
Okay.
Yeah. But I will also say that this whole book felt very similar to The Blue Sword, but like not as good. It's like if you added romance, it'd be The Blue Sword.
That's interesting because The Blue Sword I think is about 10 to 20 years older.
What?
Or maybe even more older.
I always forget these books are like so
super old.
Wow.
So if you have read, what's it called? It's Sharon Shin's trilogy, Angel something.
Angel Fall or Angel Arc?
It's
Archangel?
Archangel. That's the one I'm thinking of. It has the exact same like world building premise. So to establish kind of where we are if you haven't read Dragonflight, you get a nice like 2-page backstory of how you came to be on the planet Pern, which is, human colonists, like advanced space explorers, settled on Pern as a planet, established all these holds, like castle type things, and colonized the planet. And it's kind of medieval, I'd say, in nature. But it's been centuries, if not thousands of years since it was colonized. And what the colonists realized is that there is a moon that circles around the planet every 200 years, every 100 years. And as the moon approaches and gets super close, these parasitic spores rain down and they burn everything
Mhm.
in an attempt to like burrow and establish their own life form. And these dragons, these fire-breathing, like, pern lizards are huge. They are dragons, and the colonists bonded with these dragons because they're the only vessel mechanism to kill the spores before they land on ground, so they have to be killed in flight.
Okay. My pumpkin pie baby cakes was, like, screaming through this, like, first thing, so this is my first time hearing about, like, the lore.
Oh, okay.
I was a little bit confused, but that makes a lot more sense. Okay.
Yeah, you have to read the introduction.
Yeah, yeah. Yes,
Otherwise, you're
you do.
totally lost.
Yeah.
And then, like, furthermore, the current population of Pern has so far forgotten. It's been so many hundreds of years since the colonists came to the planet that they don't recognize, like, they don't know where they came from.
Okay.
So there's no, like, living memory of the colonists. They're just a people on a planet, and that's why it reads like fantasy
Mm.
because there's these weird mentions of, like, lifts and elevators and stuff and, like,
Mhm.
flame-throwing technology, and that's all legacy stuff from the colonists, but no one knows about that 'cause it's been
Mm.
so long.
I will say this is also familiar or, like, similar vibes to the 3rd book in who wrote Ender's Game? The dude's, like,
Mm.
the biggest douchebag on the face of the planet.
Orson Scott Card.
Yeah, the 3rd book in his series is kind of similar where they, like, sent down people to, like, a planet to be, like, or, like, some kind of scientist and, like,
Mhm.
interact with the culture there, but then, like, it's been so long that they've forgotten how they got to the planet, and then they have, like, all of these, like, weird rituals that are, like, based in science, but it's, like, now it's turned into, like, mythology. I love it. I honestly love it as a concept because you go full circle and you're back to
Yeah, exactly where you're at.
yeah.
And you know what else did this? I Planet Barbarians.
Oh, yeah! I was like, "This feels familiar," but I forgot what
So that's
yeah.
why a lot of people say, like, Anne McCaffrey is the OG. She's the first one to do this. And that's
Yeah.
why a lot of stuff builds off of, like, this premise. So,
It's fun because it's also kind of, like, legit, though. Because I
yeah.
feel like we're kind of, like not to get political, but we're experiencing that with vaccines right now.
Yeah, measles in Texas.
Yeah, oh my god, that's crazy. Okay, but interesting. I love that as a concept. Humankind is stupid.
But I love the dragons in this book. So,
I agree. It's interesting, though, that I feel like they take a different perspective than, like, Fourth Wing does, where
mhm,
it's like they're not super old and they, like, know more than the humans. It's, like, from birth. They're, like,
mhm.
paired up with a rider, and then they, like, grow together. I like that more than the, like, old dragon.
For a commentary on dragons, it feels more realistic.
Yeah.
You know?
Honestly, I agree.
Right? So, yeah, that's kind of the backstory,
Mhm.
but it's been 400 years since they call them threads in this
Mhm.
book, since the spores fell down, and so all of the human centers around Pern have kind of been like, "Do we really need the dragons anymore? Like, we
Mhm.
just have to pay them taxes, and for what? Because there's no mysterious threat."
Mhm. Yeah. And then the hold that we start in is Ruatha, which we, like, find our main character, and I think this is, like, 3 years before the events of, like, the main, like, book or whatever, and she, like, wakes up in a panic, and she's like, "What the fuck is going on?" And she's like, "I don't know why I'm waking up." And what had happened was there was, like, some kind of, like, premonition that something bad was gonna happen, and so she, like, scurries into the watchwear,
Mhm.
which is like a guard dog
He's a guard
dragon.
dragon, but like a little one.
Yeah, but, like, kinda
Uh-huh.
weirdo. So she, like, goes and, like, sequesters herself with him, and her whole family is murdered by this guy who's Lord Fax, who's basically, like, on this conquest across, like, all of the holds, and he's, like, legit the worst dude ever.
Ever. He is if you need someone to hate, it's Lord Fax.
Yeah, and so she then decides, like all good heroines, that she is going to enact revenge, but very slowly over the next 10 years, basically, or some kind of crazy timeline. And she's also, in that time, like, been sabotaging the, like, hold so that
Mhm.
he, like, gets pissed off and then she can, like, fight him, etc.
And she's, like, 20 years old, so when
Yeah.
she, like, wakes up and goes and hides with her little baby dragon, she's, like, 10-ish, and we learn that the little watchwear only allows members of the blood, is what they call it, to, like, be friendly with it, and Lessa That Lessa's
Oh, yeah, Lessa.
Yeah. She is the princess daughter of the hold keeper, lord, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Kind of medieval title.
Yeah. I will say Lessa, how do you say it?
Lessa?
Lessa. She's a bad bitch.
Oh, yeah.
Like-
No, like, to, like, 10-year revenge plot, like, I fucking dig it, dude.
You will fly, and I hope you had the same experience. Like, the first part of the book, you are in it.
Oh, yeah.
Like-
It got me. It got me, dude. I was like, fuck yeah. Like, she's gonna go on this adventure and become, like, the savior of the world, and then
things happen. But,
yeah. But this first part, though.
the first part is super engaging because you're pretty much in Lessa's head,
Mhm.
and she is bitter and vengeful, and she is out to...
She kind of reminds me of the main character from The Familiar.
Oh!
Where, like, it's kind of that gritty, like, I will do whatever it fucking takes. Like, I have put my morals aside, sort of. Like,
That's a good take.
yeah, they're both, like, angry.
Yeah. And so she has kind of turned herself into this drudge so, like, she doesn't get assaulted.
That's like a servant, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's like a thrall servant.
Yeah.
Like,
all of those terms, I'm like, servant?
yeah, pretty much.
Sure.
Because it's a weird, like, tenant farmer and then hold keeper lord setup. And so she's like a kitchen drudge. And so she's gross. Her hair's matted. She's covered in dirt. Like, you couldn't guess her age even if you tried.
Mm-hmm.
And she uses that as a mask to, like, keep herself protected and, like, no one looks at her.
We get, like, a little bit of, like, the tidbits of what kind of, like, sabotage she's been doing. And she'll, like, purposely make sure that the, like, bread is burnt and, like, something will happen that's, like, key part of, like, making sure the roast is, like, evenly cooked, and she, like, fucks it up. So it's, like, it's just bad enough that it could be bad luck, but it's, like, this is a lot of bad luck.
Everything. It is brilliant. And so she's just biding her time to basically murder facts and take over her homeland again.
I dig it. I love this as a, like, archetype. Eat
Good.
it up.
And then we get a bit of a perspective switch.
I was drawn in at first. He got me. I didn't really like him, but I was like, he could, meet the, like, lady love and, have some kind of, like, change of heart, but he, Falar is a
Flower.
he is, he's a guy.
Okay. Falar. Is that how you say it?
That's how the audiobook said it, Falar.
Falar.
That's why I was very caught off guard by this apostrophe in the middle.
So we kind of go back to the Weirs. Is that how they call them?
Which is just like a dragon den?
It's a dragon den in the mountains.
Okay.
With, think of a huge valley, and then the sides of the valley are riddled with caves, and that's where the dragons live. And there's a huge cave tunnel system, and each dragon has its own cave.
That makes way more sense. Okay, cool.
So the dragons are color-coded by... in, like,
power
hierarchy. Yeah. So the bronze dragons are, like, the supreme, the biggest, baddest dragons. They're the only dragons that can mate with the queen dragon. And there's only one golden queen dragon, like queen bee.
Yeah.
Then there's brown dragons, and then blue and green after that. Yeah. And so Falar is a bronze rider. He's young. He's, like, in his 20s. He's, like, trying to establish himself in the current, like, regime of dragon lords. He's kind of panicking because the current queen is...
she's a dumb bitch. He, like, says that.
Yeah. Well, and she just died, and her dragon laid a queen egg. So this is, like, the hope for the nation, and Falar is worried because the threads are supposed to be coming soon. But none of the dragons and, like, none of the hold keepers are prepared for that. And then
they sort of think he's crazy. They're like, yeah, sure, the threats are going to happen. Like, okay, bro.
Yeah. And then the bronze dragon and his rider that mates with the queen dragon is, like, the weird leader.
Yeah. Yeah. And weird woman. There's some weird, like, hierarchy thing, but it's, like, top dog.
Yeah. So the riders match their dragons in rank, basically.
Yeah.
And so the current were leader is kind of a little scared, like, wants to stay closed in on his wear, and he's like, okay, well, the threads are coming, sure.
He's a weenie.
Yeah, you don't like him, but you don't hate him. Yeah. They have to conduct what they call the search, because this
is what got me. I was like, fucking sign me up.
This will get any romantasy girl reading this book. So the queen dragon laid a queen egg, and only a woman can bond with the queen dragon. So all the bronze dragons fly out all over Pern, and they conduct a search, and they're looking for, like, I don't know, a woman
who's, like, strong of character and isn't gonna be scared about this, like, dragon and, has these, like, leadership qualities, et cetera, et cetera. And I guess, like, Ruatha used to be, like, a pretty strong, like, contender or, like, producer of, like, strong
like,
queens.
the line of, like, lords from Rotha, like, their ladies have always been, like, badasses.
Yeah.
And the other thing to remember is that the writers share a telepathic bond with their dragon. So if you've
Same as
read
Fourth Wing.
Yeah, it's the exact same as Fourth Wing, only doesn't read as dumb.
Yeah. And yeah. There are some parallels. Like, I'm assuming that Rebecca Yarros read
She would
Dragonflight.
I hope so.
Yeah. Because there are some things that I'm like, oh, Dragonflight was just a more explicit version of this.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So all of the bronze riders set out all over Pern, and they conduct the search, and they are visiting all of the holds, and all the lords are like, hide your women.
Yeah, because they, like, go through, like, 1 or 2 steps beforehand, and the guy's like, nope, no ladies here, big sorry. They're just all gone. And he's like, really? Because I'm pretty sure you're just, like, sequestering them in some room. And then this is when we meet, like, Lord Fax for the first time, and he's, like, total douchebag right off the start. He's like, why the fuck do I need to, like, give these dragon riders, like, all of my, like, best produce and, like, give them fealty? Like, they can go fuck themselves. And so he's kind of a dickhead, but, like, Falar is like, well, I am going to, like, turn the other cheek and, like, outsmart you and, like, kind of disregard all of your, like, subtle insults or whatever. And he's like, I know that you have a bunch of ladies, like, inside your keep. And he's like, okay, we'll go and fucking see them, I guess. And they go into his, like, harem.
It's a harem.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, this is kind of yucky.
It's very gross.
And basically, he has had sex with all of these women, and a majority of them are well on their way to, like, having kids. Including Lady Gemma, who's, like, older, but she's smart. And Falar's kind of like, that's a bummer. She'd make a really good queen. She's, like, coherent, but she also hates Fax.
Yeah.
Because Fax also wants her to, like, die.
He's hoping that her pregnancy kills her, and she's, like, ready to burst.
Yeah. And so he's obviously the world's worst human being in existence. And then I don't know if there's anything that happens after this, but the next step is that Falar asked to go to Ruatha, and, like, Lord Fax is like, why the fuck would we go there? They're like, there's literally nothing there. And Falar's like, I just have a good feeling about this. Like, I think we're going to find our person there.
Well, the thing with Fax's background is that all of the holds, what they call the territories, are supposed to be controlled by one lord. And Fax kind of overruled that and, like, took over a bunch of these holds by force.
Mm-hmm.
And so Ruatha, like, he murdered the family entirely. So he's the only lord available. And he's done that to, like, 5 different holds so far.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, because he's been, like, collecting them up.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty awful.
Mm-hmm.
So they all venture out to Ruatha, because Falar has not found a single woman he thinks is, like, viable.
Yeah. And they also brought along Lady Gemma, which is so crazy. Like, having been pregnant quite recently, you got me fucked.
Riding a horse? Are you kidding me?
Absolutely not. I didn't even like being in the car for an extended period of time because I'm just uncomfortable and, like, heavy. And she's, like, older too. Like, absolutely. I would murder someone before I was dragged out to the middle of fucking nowhere.
Yeah, so they arrive at Ruatha, and Lessa's like, this is my opportunity to ruin everything.
And it's literally like that verbatim.
Yeah.
She's like, hoo-hoo-hoo.
So she does the bread burning thing and the meat roasting thing, and it is just awful. And so we're kind of going back and forth on the perspective switching between Falar and Lessa. And it's kind of fun to see Falar see interactions of this drudge in the corner and, like, see how Fax is treating the hold and everything in there. And then they're at dinner, and it's getting a little heated between Falar and Fax.
Because he's, like, getting progressively more angry because he feels like the guy who's, like, kind of quasi in charge of Ruatha in his stead or whatever is, like, insulting him. And he's like, we don't even have, like, anything good to eat. Like, I'm tired. Like, I want something to drink, but, like, all of the drink spilled, like, 2 seconds ago. And, like, the meat is disgusting. And, like, your room is horrific and like somehow, windows were left open and all of the rooms are like disgusting. Like, what the fuck is going on in this hold? Like, I'm the king. You need to like respect me. What's going on? So he's getting like progressively like more angry. And Pilar is like, what is happening right now? But then Lady Gemma starts to have contractions in the middle of dinner.
And then Fax says something like, oh, if Lady Gemma's son turns out to be a boy, I renounce Ratha in favor of my heir. And Falaire's like, heard and answered or something like that.
He's like, got you, bitch, written down.
But what's fascinating is that Lessa has like this very extreme telepathic ability, and she forced Falaire to respond like that way, like exerted some influence on him. And he said that. He's like, wait, what the fuck did I just say? Like,
why am I making this worse?
That's not okay. We're just going to roll with that. Yep. And so he helps Lady Gemma because she's like screaming out of the hall and into a bedroom. But as he's helping Lady Gemma, this drudge comes up and also is helping Lady Gemma. And he's Flaire's like looking at the drudge, and he notices that the hands that are holding Lady Gemma do not match at all what this drudge looks like. They're like youthful and slender, and like if you're a romantasy girl, you're gonna be like, oh, it's a hand scene.
Yep, the hands. God, the tidbits are there, and then you'll see. But the way this is like teed up, it's like fucking out of the park, home run, bases loaded. Like this is gonna be the shit. And then girl has like kind of a crazy like moment here during this birth scene.
Yeah, Gemma is dying.
Yeah.
And then she does die.
Yeah.
And Lessa is in the waiting room, and she's like, haha, I know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So she runs out of the birthing room. Gemma is a corpse now, and she runs into the hall, and she says, the baby lives, it's a boy. And so
Fax immediately spits out his beer. He's like, what did you say?
And then he proceeds to beat the shit out of Lessa, like kicks her. What is that?
My water just spit everywhere.
That's awesome. So Fax is so angry, he's just kicking this drudge because he can, and Lessa is knocked unconscious. So Falaire is like, well, you better start renouncing this hold right now. And he draws a sword, and he and Fax battle. It's kind of hot. And Falaire kills him.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty bloody.
Yep. And then he's like, I'm going to check on this girl because I feel like she might be the one.
Because he can sense the power coming off of her. And it's like, ooh, there's something here. And then another nurse runs into the hall like,
it's a boy!
And Lessa was pissed because
she's like, wait, are you fucking kidding me? Like, this was my chance.
Because this was her opportunity to be like, I am the last living blood of the Ruathan Lord.
I think she even tells Falaire, she's like, this place is like mine now. And he's like, girl, while you were passed out, like, Gemma had an actual baby.
Yeah, that baby's over there. You're out of luck.
She's like, what?
But Falaire's like, good news is you're going to be a dragon queen.
And she's like, I guess I will allow this switcheroo.
And meanwhile, Lessa has been talking to his dragon because unbeknownst to Falaire, Lessa can talk to any of the dragons, which is, turns out that we find out later, not a common skill.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is a good place to kind of maybe wrap up because Falaire like convinces Lessa like, hey, like you really want to stay in this shitty life and like be around here, or you could be the most powerful woman in the world and have a queen dragon as pet. So how about you just get on the dragon and let's go?
She's like, fine, I agree. Because also they have some kind of like the watchwear tries to like protect her. And
it's so sad.
It's sad. And she like tells him at the last second, like, don't attack Falaire. Like, it's fine. I'm not going to leave. And then he like dies trying to like.
It breaks its own neck.
Yeah, it's so sad. And Falaire's like, okay, girl, how you be talking to all of these dragons? See, the beginning gets you.
So readers, you're probably caught along with us, but this is like roughly part 1 of Dragonflight, and yeah, just it's gonna get interesting.
From our shelf to yours.
We will see you on the next page.
Hi, readers. Like what you've been hearing? Check out the Spice Archive at notanotherheroine.com to see all of our reviews and ratings. And if you'd like to support our growing library, find us on Patreon and get access to exclusive bonus content.
If you'd like to just listen, we post new episodes every Monday and Wednesday on Spotify, Apple, and Amazon. Thanks for listening.